Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, interfaith minister, and evangelist with over 30 years of experience here in the US as well as internationally. My intention here is to help you become better, have a better relationship with you, yourself, your inner self, as well as you connecting to the world around you. So, today's topic in Insight with Moonshadow today is talking about healing your past and changing your future. A lot of times we have old stuff that kind of like has affected us in a lot of ways. Like I'm sure all of us know people that tend to hold grudges or can't move from past hurts or past situations, or even just it could be anything. It could be not only just a situation, it could be a lot of old thing, past relationships. Moving on from a past relationship can be very traumatic as well. So looking at it from that perspective, it is incredibly difficult to move forward and to look at things from a clean slate perspective. If you've been around long enough, unless you're brand new, shiny, spanky soul, it's you're going to have history. You're going to have some old karma. You're going to have uh, some old residue of past lives or past situations or hurts or even enjoyment. It could be a lot of different things. A lot of times comparing the past with the present and not being part of the present can definitely affect your future. So being stuck in that moment is no different than kind of like spinning your wheels in the same spot or running in the same spot. You know how a lot of, like with exercise, some people jog and actually run. Some people run on a treadmill. On a treadmill, you could be doing miles, but you're still staying in the same spot. So with that kind of residue, that kind of old energy attached to you, sometimes it's easier to change the script, to change what's happening with you, to move forward from what has been to moving into the present. Because there's that old saying, the past is history, the future is a mystery, and the present's a gift. Right? The present's a gift. That's why they call it a gift. So looking at it from that perspective, being in the here and now, the power of now is incredibly important and incredibly powerful. And believe me, like I said, I practice what I preach here. This is not something where there's a sense of vulnerability when you're doing what we do. As healers and light workers and people that are trying to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. There's a vulnerability there. There's something that we are putting ourselves out there. And this is not just me. There's a lot of people, in this broadcast that put themselves out there, and you're open. You're open and you're vulnerable to potential hurt. You're open to potential disappointment, betrayal, and especially being out here in the mask-filled landscape of social media, that also doesn't help. And also too, I was thinking about possibly actually doing a small exercise in being able to clear some of your old past as well. So probably going to do some practical application as well before the broadcast is up. So basically, you too can get a taste or a sampling of letting go of the old, releasing some of the old, and moving yourself more towards the now, more towards the present, more towards where you need to be now to properly make clear decisions. Because it's really, really hard to make clear decisions when you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to get hurt again, or I'm going to get disappointed again, or anything like that. It's just going to affect you. So looking at it from that perspective, it could be very, very difficult to move forward when we have that holding us back. So this is the part of the lesson, part of the journey, part of our way of getting through our lives. Hey, Karen. So now looking at it from that perspective, now all of us have had some kind of, you good, the bad, the ugly. You have all kinds of things that happen to you in your experience. So now, if you take a look at that, and if you look back for 1 second, there are things that propelled you forward, and there are things that held you back. There are things that made you smile, made you laugh, and there are things that made you sad, made you cry. Now, with all these experiences, they create who you truly are. And this is something that we don't always realize. You are in you are a byproduct of nature and nurture. So you have your old karmic stuff, you have your soul coming into this body, you have your own identity, but then your experiences mold and shape you to who you are as well. So when that happens, you are in a position of being more responsible. And that's the hard part. That's the part we forget. Because we like to blame other people. And I've done it as well. We like to blame other people and say, oh, it's because it was so and so's fault, or this happened, or if I didn't get fired from that job, or if I didn't get this and that. A lot of times we like to tend to blame other things and other people or other situations for our hardship. Now, including current events. But this is the thing. There is a responsibility, and there is an accountability within all of us. So one of the metaphors I use with people, and I've used with clients and used with people I've worked with, have been, you have a switch. All of us have switches. All of us have triggers. So now let's just say, for example, if you have a switch or a trigger, just say, for example, you walk into a room and there is a button, a big red button in the middle of the room. Now, human nature, you're going to wonder what the button's for, right? Think about it. You're going to wonder what the button's about. You're going to wonder what the button's for. Curiosity in itself is going to make you feel like, okay, what happens if I push that button? What is going to be the outcome if I push that button? So now we all have these buttons. We all have these triggers, right? As a matter of fact, even there's I don't know if any of you know Ren and Stimpy, but there was an episode of Ren and Stimpy, an animated cartoon, where they were talking about a big red candy-like button, and Ren was enticing Stimpy to push the button. And then, of course, the cartoon exploded at that moment once they pushed the button, right? But this is the thing, we're curious. But now in the same way, there are people that like to prey on vulnerability, or they think vulnerability is a weakness. They think kindness is a weakness. They think being good is a weakness. I don't. I believe vulnerability is far stronger. I believe kindness is far stronger. I believe unconditional love is far stronger than hate. That they can both motivate us. Yeah, well, there you go. Kaylee, Kaylee said that was a horrible show that I watched. That was a horrible show that she watched religiously. Hey, Chrissy, what's up? So, but this is the thing. This is the thing. We all have those triggers within us. So if you say dated a certain someone, and they had a certain look. And this also happens too. There are countless people that I've worked with that they dated the same person over and over again, but the face was a little different. The name was different. They could have lived in a different house, but they were the same person, the same characteristic, the same personality. And they kept on dating or going out with or attracting the same type of person. Now, there's a trigger. There's a button. Now, if you really look at that from that perspective, who's to blame? If you're going to go with the blame thing, quote, blame, right? Who's to blame? Is it their fault that they're preying on you? Is it your accountability for allowing them to see the trigger and not being in the present? So that's the whole thing. So the word blame is rough. The word blame is a very, very harsh word. So let's just say accountability and responsibility. You are responsible for your happiness. No particular person or persons is going to make you completely happy or make you complete. This is a misnomer, and this is a mistake that people make all the time, is that people go ahead and think, okay, I would be happy if I found the right person or this. Now, granted, they may enhance you, and that's what they're supposed to do. But make you completely complete. If you're unhappy, having another person isn't going to necessarily make you complete or make you happy, right? Oh, thank you, Kristen. She's saying she can't see the moon because it's overcast and cloudy, but she has one on her screen. Thank you. But so this is the thing here, is that with these triggers, we forget that it's, that old saying, it takes two to tango. It does. So looking at the past and looking at the present and the future, that's how you have a better future. Even with current events, we still don't know what's going to happen, but we have our accountability. We still have our own lives to tend to, Now, Chrissy's saying you can only blame yourself. If you do the same, you will get the same. If you try something new, you'll find something new. Exactly. I'm glad you're here, Anna. But this is a big part of it. So now let's go back. Let's go back in time. Hey, Judy. You can go back in time. Believe it or not, time travel is possible. And the reason why I say that is you may not be able to change the past, but you may be able to alter how you deal with things that have happened in the past. And when you do that, you are able to sort out these things. So your present is so much better. So now take a look at things that happened in your past, disappointments and that kind of thing. How long on to these things for you to learn the lesson? That's another question. And here at Insight with Moonshadow, you tend to get sometimes answers, sometimes more questions, sometimes a little bit of both. So this is all a big part of this experience that we have, because ultimately we are all souls having a human experience. These are all things that we need to learn for ourselves. Yes, and I agree, Michael, sometimes it takes way too long, but that's a patience thing. It's hard not to be patient. And you're singing to the choir, my friend. I can guarantee that. So this is a big part of it. So now, now go back to the triggers and the buttons that we have. Those triggers, those old wounds, right? Now let's just say, looking at it from a physicality perspective, if you went deep within yourself and you go ahead and clip all the wires to those triggers and eliminate those triggers, Now the same situation happens again. A person that you haven't met yet comes in and does the same exact thing of a past hurt or past disappointment. What then? You take a look at that and then you go, well, wait a minute. You're looking at it from a different perspective. You're looking at it from a fresh perspective. It's not so much, oh, you're going to be one of them. You're going to be the same person, even though there may be similarities. You'll be able to look back and go, ah, this seems familiar, but I'm not going to entertain it. Because for example, the Buddhists believe that you should not dismiss any emotion. Any emotion. You should experience every emotion. Every single emotion you should feel and experience. However, instead of entertaining that emotion for too long, you take it in, you look at it, and then it moves forward. It moves on. Because then at that point you can move forward into a new experience instead of being stuck in that minutia that we get stuck in. So now that being said, eliminating some triggers really makes a big, huge difference in working the power of now, and working with the power of being unconditional. Thank you, Kaylee. Kaylee's saying this is right on time. So this is part of it. So if you're going ahead and being stuck with old triggers and stuck with old experiences, how can you experience something new if you don't try something new? I know with a lot of children that I've helped raise, being an extended family person, or if I was involved with someone with children, there are countless times children that don't want to try things. No, I don't want to try it. I don't want to try it. They usually do that with food. They'll do that with different situations. So now with food, even my own god nephew, he was one for that. He didn't want to try things. He's very finicky, right? He didn't want to try it. So anyway, as he was younger, I had said, well, why don't you try it? Because if you try it and then don't like it, then what am I going to say? You tried it, you don't like it, there we go. Let's move forward. But how do you know unless you really don't try it, or look into it, or investigate it, or look further into who you are, look further into what may be causing this malady or this issue? And this is what's happening right now. A lot of past karma, a lot of past disappointments are affecting all of us. All of us as global people, we're getting affected. So there are a lot of people that are stuck. They're stuck in their own old issues. They're stuck in, hey, Pamela, welcome. They're stuck in their old issues. They're stuck in their own old experiences, and they're not seeing it from a fresh perspective. Now, Kaylee's saying, I'm noticing similarities, but they are bringing new awareness. So I'm taking it in and feeling it if there's a block or if it flows. And that's a great way to think about it. Because if it's flowing, then you know, okay, this too shall pass, and it will pass sooner because it's flowing. And that's the thing. Karmic relationships happen all the time. I've had the benefit, I'm going to say the benefit, depending on your viewpoint, benefit or curse, of actually connecting with soulmates more than once in my life. So how interesting is that? Where you connect with somebody and you knew them before. And then you connected with them so strongly, and you've never met them on this plane. You've never met them in this life, but they feel so familiar. Well, I've had that opportunity quite a few times, and that doesn't happen often. So that in itself is a gift, but that's a gift that's wrapped with a lot of complication. That's a gift that's wrapped around a lot of complication, because there are people that I've met that I found a connection with, and I knew there's a connection for something. There's a reason for that connection, and you're unsure why that connection's there, but there's something there. There's just something. It's like a force of nature. You just can't figure it out, but it's there. And I could even say, absolutely, absolutely. And this is kind of how it works, because we tend to get really, really egotistical, thinking that we know everything. We know everything. We don't have to learn anything. We know everything. We tend to think we're know-it-alls. We don't have to learn anything. Well, spoiler people, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have to learn something. We wouldn't be incarnated into flesh and bone and cells and a heart. We wouldn't be incarnated. So there's a lot of reasons why we're here. There's a lot of learning situations. There's a learning curve. And we forget this is why you have to learn how to walk and learn how to crawl and then move forward and do that. And this is a big part of it. So now going back in time and really looking back at who you were. Now, granted, you're hardwired a certain way. All of us are. We have a certain DNA or a certain hardwired capability of who we are. There's certain things, there's certain standards, there's certain morals, there are certain things that we will just never do. It would take a whole lot for us to get twisted or get manipulated to do these things. Okay. So now, if you think about it from that perspective, it's not where I'm talking about the hardwire. You can't necessarily change the basic or core of who we are, but we evolve, we change, we grow, we also stagnate. And this is a big part of what's happening within ourselves, within the planet itself. All this stuff is changing. Change is inevitable. And this is something we don't necessarily like all the time. If it was changed for the better, well, of course, we're signing on to that, right? You, you, me both. I would sign on to that in a New York second. But we get the good, the bad, and the ugly too. And this is what molds us to be who we are. And this is who you could be. This is where you can really continue to grow and evolve and become a better person. This is why I have a lot of love and a lot of faith for people that are spiritual oriented and people that are light workers. And the reason why I say that, because it's a little bit more of a learning curve for people that are empathic, for people that are intuitive, because they are bombarded by energy and they're aware of this energy all the time. It happens constantly. It's not like when you're sleeping, you don't get messages. You get messages when you're asleep. You get messages when you're awake. You could be in the middle of doing your job. You could be getting the mail. All of that you're getting, as some people call them downloads, some people call them visions, messages, however and whatever you want to call them. They happen. And since they do happen, as who we are, our job and our purpose is to make sense of these things, to make sense of these messages, because this is how we can guide and help other people. So you don't have to be necessarily a leader, because we're all messengers and vessels in one way, shape, or form. All of us are. Every single one of us can provide some kind of hope, or make someone smile, or create a miracle. Yeah, I said a miracle. We can all create a miracle. Now, let's just think about this for a second. Hey, Marisha. Um, Now, creating a miracle. Like, say, for example, someone's on the street and they're homeless, right? they haven't eaten in 3 days, and you provide them with a meal, then guess what? That in itself is a miracle in one sense, shape, or form. And this is exactly what I mean. So us being connected to source and us being connected to the divine, this is what makes it harder for our purpose, right? Thank you, Kaylee. So she just said, I'm totally in her juju. But this is part of it. Now, there are people that I immediately connected with, and I knew, and I knew. And there are people right in this broadcast, I knew that there was a connection. And I'm not going to single it out. I'm not going to single them out. But I knew there was a purpose. There was a reason. There was something that, a light bulb, a flicker, a spark that said, okay, you're going to learn something from this person. You're going to teach something to this person. You're going to guide something. You're going to guide this person somewhere. That person's going to guide you. It's ebb and flow. It's both. It's both directions. And a lot of people forget that part. A lot of people forget that part of the mix. For a lot of that. So now, this is something that I learned a long time ago. And it was a hard lesson for me. Very, very hard lesson. Was the fact at one point in time, I felt like I was burning the candle at both ends. I was putting a lot of energy into everyone else and not really taking care of me enough. So there's a level of being able to be a little selfish. And what I mean by selfish is maintaining a good mind, body, and spirit connection, good health, a good mindset. So that's really important to be able to do that, to connect and balance in that way. Because if you don't connect and balance in that way, if somebody asks you to move them, like they're moving house, say. Now, if you are sick and you're weak, you're not moving anything. You can try like hell, but to move a box, it's going to take you forever to move a box. So it's the same instance. So all of us have to really look at who we are presently. What can we do to eliminate in our past? Getting rid of the old, getting rid of what's not serving us anymore, and then moving towards the present so we're clear. Is this something, and of course, accountability. So if you look at a situation, you look at it and say, is this mine? Is this mine to look at? Is this mine, or is this the other person's experience? And you take a look at that. And then you take a real good look and say, okay, this is mine. This is my stuff. You have to take ownership of your stuff. And only your stuff. And then when it comes down to it, then you could actually mend, heal, and nurture the other person, or the connection, or the relationship. So that's all important, because all of us are different. All of us are different in our own ways. So now going into the past and looking backwards into the past of who you were. Now, just say, for example, look back when you were, say, 15, right? What did you do at 15? Who were you at 15? What decisions did you make at 15? Now, thinking about your present age now, would you do things differently if you had that same situation happen? If you had that same moment? If you could redo a moment? I think golfers call it a mulligan, a do-over, right? So just imagine you being at your age now and being able to go back in time. Now, you can't change what happened, the result of what happened, but you could look at the lesson a little differently from what happened and go, oh. And this is where you have the aha moment. Now, Chrissy's saying, I usually say a dead hero is no hero. We need to take care of ourselves, and then we can help others, or we'll be drained. And it's very true. But also, too, in holding on to past things, taking a look back at who we were. Hey, Carlos, what up? Looking back at where we were, who we were, and who we are now, and not seeing the difference, or it can cause a barrier. It can cause an issue. You know, it could cause problems down the road, because I've known a lot of people that complain about the future. Hey, Ray, pleasure seeing you. But then looking at the future, they'll complain. They'll complain about what's going on, but they haven't really done anything to actually make the change from the past to the present. And that's big. That's huge, right? Now, Kaylee's saying, I would come into a world middle-aged, undamaged, enlightened, fully balanced in every moment, so I can only bring light and prosperity to us. Yeah, well, laugh out loud, of course. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to come in perfect, no blemishes, perfectly fit, and all that? But I'll tell you this, and I'm glad you brought that up, Kaylee. We would not be enlightened at all. We would be blissful zombies if we didn't have the negative experiences that happened and the positive experiences that happened, because they all mold us. Now, the secret is, again, is not entertaining that old wound anymore, because it will become toxic. It will, not only will it cause a scar, but underneath you have all that infection. So if you look at it from a scientific perspective, if you have infectious old karmic wounds, you're going to continue having to deal with them, as opposed to cleaning them up, giving them the right attention, and then you can move forward. So I can honestly say, you know, a lot of people, you know, I've heard women that I know saying, you know, a knight in shining armor. Well, a knight in shining armor hasn't seen war. He's just starting out. So again, you're going to see dings. It's not going to be, you're going to see blemishes. You're going to see a lot of differences. And you find a lot of that in the dating world. That's also a big part of it too. There's a lot of judgment and criticism that happens there. But again, it's about, okay, well, I no longer want that, so I want something new. So they don't really think about their accountability or your accountability on why a situation happened. Yeah, what's he's got to know that armor, right? That's true. And there's rust. Of course there's rust. But this is the thing. This is a big part of who we are. Now, are you that same 15-year-old that's been stuck and hasn't moved forward? So now it could be 30, 35, 40. But you're still looking at things from that 15-year-old perspective, from that experience. And what happens then? Again, not wanting to throw the blame is accountability and responsibility. Are you still that 15-year-old? You're really not. And honestly, Michael, I do, and jokingly, I usually say I'm only half angel, because why? Because the horns have to hold up the halo somehow. It's not just going to float there, you know. They're going to get propped up somehow. But all of us are that. All of us do have those different polarities. So it's important to work with them. Not everyone's perfect. In fact, there is no such thing as perfection. And a lot of people think that there could be. There isn't. We're always in an evolutionary project. We're always a work in progress. It's something that we're always moving and growing and doing that. Right. And exactly. So now, if things are still coming up that happened when you were 15, then that's a trigger. That's something where you have to go back to that age and release that energy. Release that energy so you can move into the present. And when you move into the present, you clear it up. It's no different than when you take a really good nap, the perfect nap. And I'm going to use the word perfect for this in this case scenario. The perfect nap is what? The nap that you're not waking up tired. You had just enough rest. You weren't interrupted. You had just enough rest where you open your eyes and you feel like, wow, whew, that's exactly what I needed for that moment. So that was the ideal for that moment, right? So now looking at it from that perspective, if you look at your past and you say, okay, now what could I have done better? Or how could I have coped with it better? Or is this something that I didn't necessarily find the right thing? You know, I didn't cope with it well then, and situations keep coming up and keep on bringing us into the same situation because we didn't get the lesson the first time. Some people, it wasn't the 50th time, 100th time. So that's important. And yes, I truly love a perfect nap. I wasn't one for napping when I was younger, but as things change and as you become more seasoned, you realize, wow, it'd be so nice to just be able to close my eyes and not and just be able to shut the world out for a little bit. Diana's saying, I just hope I'm going through strength to strength, learning along the way. And there's weakness, there's got to be weakness there too, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because we learn. And what Michael's saying here is saying that we learn more from our mistakes. Now, the interesting thing, I don't consider them mistakes. I consider them lessons. They're either easy lessons or hard lessons. A lot of times you go, you know what? I really could have done that differently. Guess what? Hard lesson. An easy lesson is learning from other people's mistakes or other people's hard lessons. So if you know someone slips and falls in a puddle or gets wet in a puddle, now if you go ahead and walk through the same puddle and the person behind you walks through the same puddle, then guess what? Who's not learning? Right? However, you see the last three people have stepped in the puddle. You go, oh, I gotta bypass that puddle. And then you've changed. You've evolved something. You've moved and eliminated one potential experience that wasn't going to serve you anyway. There was no real lesson in stepping in a puddle, you know? So this is a big part of it. Well, that's true. If you don't learn, if you don't have lessons, you don't learn, and then you have learning opportunities. That's very true, Anna. So now there are always learning opportunities, all the time. We're always learning something new. Now the difference is if you're aware of that learning process, if you're aware of that lesson, if you're aware of that thing coming back up and going, oh, by the way, hey, Moon, did you think about that? Do you realize that this has happened or this is a pattern? And this is also a big part of it. Hey, Karen. So old patterns, a lot of times it's getting rid of the old pattern. You can move into the present. And when you move into the present, I can tell you there is a lot more bliss in the present. Because now, since we cannot change the past, you can alter how you saw things and then move forward. And the future is a lot brighter if you're looking at it from a clear perspective. Now, Kaylee's saying, I consider anything that causes friction for me something to pause and evaluate. And I agree. Because if you evaluate, you can actually elevate yourself. You can move up. You could realize what has been the stopping point of who you were and who you're meant to be. And sometimes it brings you to more thinking. because I very much am a thinking person. Instinct and intuition rule me, probably 90%. But then the logical brain comes in and wants to rationalize everything and take everything apart, put everything back together, try to figure out what happened, how it happened. Was there something I could have done? Was there a lesson involved? See, this is where it gets complicated, people. This is where it gets a little sticky. So now it's up to you how long you want things to be sticky or not. Sticks in intuition, 9 out of 10, you're going to find your way out of any given situation, and you're going to learn from that lesson, regardless of whether it be an easy lesson or a hard lesson. So looking at it from that perspective, you can make some serious changes with that. Now going back, with the topic being healing the past and changing your future, you could go within yourself using many different techniques. You can go within yourself and you could go back in time and nurture who you were previously. Because time is not linear. That's when you got to that's when the brain has to kind of take a nap. That's when you want to give the brain a little nap, a little bit of a timeout. But you can go back to when you were that age and really actually nurture who you are. You can go into an introspective mode and be better and get better and move and propel yourself into a better state. And a lot of people here, I know you've experienced this. Yes, the brain needs a perfect nap. Very, very, very true, Kaylee. And this is a big part of it. So what we're going to do is in a few, we're going to actually go back in time, a little bit of a time capsule. Now, some of you may be driving, so if you're driving or if you're doing something or at work, you may not want to participate. But if you do get the chance to actually stop for a bit, for a little bit, take a little bit of pause, let's see if we could unstick some things within you. And of course, this isn't going to be a heavy-duty session because it takes a while and there's a lot of reflection involved in that. However, healing the past a little bit, we can do that. That's something we can do. As a matter of fact, I did that recently for the supermoon. I had to let go of some things that I felt that were sticking around a bit too long. So I had to refresh. Like no different than you have a PC. Sometimes you have to do a reboot. It's still the same PC. You still got the same documents, but a fresh reboot sometimes saves a lot. A fresh outlook. We could do the same thing with our experience in life. We can do the exact same thing. All it takes is some effort, some work, some motivation, some focus. And I know, with squirrel mentality, I know a lot of people have that, a little bit of OCD where it's like, oh, squirrel, I understand that. However, with a little bit of focus and like with meditation, there's so many different methods that you can utilize. You could become better and better and more proficient at being more grounded on a regular basis. So I'm glad the phone rang prior to me getting into this, because that would have just annoyed me just slightly. So now, if you are able to participate, you can just listen. But if you're available to participate, you're invited to. What I'd like for you to do is to be able to sit. Okay, you want your feet on the ground. Okay, Kaylee is ready, excited, and will be mindful through the process, going to manifest a new set of eyes for fresh visualization. Awesome. That's the way to be. Well, the best way you can anyway, right? The best thing you can do for you. So now, looking at it from that perspective, okay, you want your feet on the ground. So now this is the one thing, interesting thing about going into an altered state. What happens is if you lay down, I can almost guarantee if you're tired enough, or if you have children, or you've had a long day, you're going to fall asleep. That's not necessarily a bad thing. What that does is just put you to sleep, and your subconscious mind goes off on its own. But for this purpose, for you to be a little more mindful of what's going on, you want to sit down. You want to sit with your back straight, because that's important. Because if you slouch, you're causing pain. Because eventually what happens is your back will start to hurt, and then that will take away your motivation. That will take away your focal point. Yeah, exactly. Welcome, Ariel. So now, so you're sitting, you have your feet flat on the ground, you have your hands on your knees or along your legs. You can have them facing up or facing down, whichever you want to do. I'd like for you to close your eyes. At this point, you don't need to be looking at the visual. All you have to do is listen to my voice. That's all you need to do at this point. So while you're sitting with your feet flat on the ground or on the floor, close your eyes. You're going to take a nice deep breath through your nose, okay? And you're going to hold, and you're going to take in as much air as you could possibly take in, and you're going to hold it for a second. Feel that feeling of being full. And then you're going to release that. Now, I tend to do a lot of nasal breathing. It's more of a yogic type of breathing, and it's really awesome and effective. So if you tend to exhale out of your mouth, if you're used to that, you could do that. If you'd like to try also exhaling through your nose, I invite and welcome you to do that as well. Try something different and new. So if you breathe in and then hold it and then breathe out. You'll notice that you will be more regulated in your breathing. You won't be towards hyperventilating or anything like that. So let's just take a couple more deep breaths like that, okay? Okay. So now that you're here, you can already feel your blood pressure slowing. You can already feel some relaxation going through your body. Now at this moment, I want you to visualize yourself at age, let's say 20. See what you looked at. See what you look like at age 20. Feel, you feel your age. Feel who you are, okay? Now you're seeing this. You're seeing yourself there. So this is looking at it from a third person perspective. So see yourself at age 20. Remember who you were at age 20. Now think about for a second. What would you tell yourself if you could tell yourself, hey, I'm from the future, and I want to give you a message. What would you tell yourself, your 20-year-old self? Think about that message, and I'll give you a few seconds to give yourself that message. And the interesting thing about this is you're going to find that message clearly pops up right away, comes up to the surface right away. Now, after you've given your 20-year-old self, that message, I want you to accept that 20-year-old self. Hold that 20-year-old self. Hug this person. Because this person, you can always use a hug, whether it be past, present, or future. You can always use a hug for sure. So hold your 20-year-old self. Give them a big hug. And whisper the message. Take a nice deep breath. Hold it, then exhale. Now that 20-year-old self is still there. So you're walking along with your 20-year-old self. So let's go and continue. And we're going to find the 10-year-old you. Let's find the 10-year-old you. See the 10-year-old you, the perfections and imperfections that you experienced. See that. See who you were. The haircut you didn't like. The haircut you did like. A missing tooth. Braces, if you had braces. See that person. Your 10-year-old self. And give them the message that's right for them. Let them know you're from the future. And you want to pass on a message, especially for them. Hold them. Give them love. Because at that age, sometimes we don't feel loved enough, or cared for enough, or acknowledged enough. So hold that 10-year-old you. Tell that 10-year-old you that you love them, that you're looking out for them, no matter what. They're never alone. Take a nice deep breath. Hold it, then exhale. Now you have quite the troop right now. You have you now. You have your 20-year-old you, which is now getting schooled, right? Because it was like, wow, I look like that at age 10. Wow. I'm going to look like that at age whatever you are right now. So now you have your 20-year-old self and you have your 10-year-old self. Now we're going to continue walking. We're going to find the 5-year-old you. Brand new, full of purpose. Got a lot of consciousness going on. You may have a lot of questions. Look at that 5-year-old you. Hug and hold that 5-year-old you. Let them know it's okay to be 5. And don't rush to be 20 or 10 or 30. Enjoy. Hold them and give them love. Tell them that you love them, no matter what has happened. Reassure them that they're not alone. Help them feel wanted and cared for, acknowledged. Whisper your message to your 5-year-old self. Tell that 5-year-old self that you love them and you'll always keep an eye out on them, for them. You'll always watch out for them. Take a deep breath. Hold it. And then exhale. And now we're going back further to the brand new you. You just came out of the womb. It's blinding. The light's blinding. You're feeling air. It's no longer a liquid environment anymore. You open to consciousness now. You're hearing noise and feeling things around you. You're tingling. Your whole body's vibrating for this new experience. Hold this new you. Love this brand new you that just came to the world, that may have been smacked on the butt to make sure that your lungs are working. Give love to this new you. Give this new you a message. Tell him how beautiful you are, how amazing life is going to be, how the journey may be rough a little bit at times, but you'll have control and you'll have the ability to learn and grow and evolve and be the best you possible. Things are going to get confusing. People are going to disappoint you. But don't let that affect or harm you. Don't let that close you off. Don't let it twist your heart. Keep your heart open. Love unconditionally. And hold that new you. Wrap that little new you in a blanket. Hug and love up on that new you. Feel that feeling. That's a perfect moment. Because new things are about to happen. You're going to learn to crawl. You're going to learn to walk. You may go from breastfeeding with mom to eating solid food, to asking questions, going to school, making friends. But this is an adventure, a new adventure. Your soul, your spark is now moving. It's learning, it's evolving. Hey. So now, take a good look at the you that's in your arms, the brand new baby you, and you at 5, and you at 10, and you at 20. Say goodbye to them and reassure them that from this moment forward, they're not going to suffer. You've released a lot of the old, the things that are kept up and pent up and stopping you from moving forward. Cleared up a lot of things. Let them know that you love them. Let them know that you care. They'll never be alone. They'll never be without. Their needs will be met. And you love them unconditionally, no matter what. No matter what easy or hard lessons they learn. And I want you to remember that feeling of being at peace, knowing that you gave the messages to all those different parts of you at different ages, at different times in the past. I want you to come back to who you are, where you are presently. And breathe in and hold it and exhale. And I want you to tell yourself that you are loved, that you are cared for, that you are worth it, that you are beautiful. Yes, and this goes for the guys too. You're beautiful. We're not gender specific here. You have a lot more to experience. This doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, or 60 here. Give yourself that love and that acceptance. People are going to criticize you. People are going to judge you. People are not going to understand you, but that, pay no mind. Who you are is who you are. And you're doing the best you can to be the best you can be. Not to judge others, not to criticize others, to try to uplift and try to help others the best you can. Let go of ego here. And breathe in. And hold it. And exhale. And you can open your eyes easily and effortlessly. Feel your body start to tingle and wake up again. Now, that was just a little journey. Now just think about this. And this is where I'm going to have your logical mind kick in. Wasn't that the easiest and the hardest thing you have ever done? Seen all the old incarnations of you and then be able to bring them back? I know when I've done that, oh, it was an emotional time. Every time I've done that, it's been an emotional time. And in your vulnerability, and there are some people that, you know, are in this broadcast that have seen me incredibly vulnerable. And I'm not going to say weak, but in a state of needing help or needing love or needing support. So since you guys are here and you all know who you are, I appreciate and love you for that. That gives me the chance to let you know. Now, Kaylee is saying, good, it was. I was feeling love, sadness. I didn't want to leave them. I felt I needed to stay to keep watch over them. And this is the great thing about it, is that you can always go back and do this. You can always go back and watch over them. But see, this is the interesting thing. Our parents do the best they can with what they have, how they were nurtured, how they were raised. You always learn a little something new as you get older, any new generation, right? So, in looking at it from that, you're always part. Those parts of you are there. Since time is not linear, you're going to find that there's still a 20-year-old you and a 15-year-old you and a 10-year-old you. But I'll tell you this. Here's the kicker. There's also a 60-year-old you. There's also a 70-year-old you. There's a you that was a great-grandfather or great-grandmother, also still floating around too. Now that's going in the future. That's a little more advanced. But regardless, man has made time linear. So now giving love to yourself, and you're very, very welcome, Kaylee. I appreciate you being here. And to some people, this might be a little too earthy crunchy. Sorry, not sorry. To some, this may be this or that or what, I don't know. You never know. You never know how people are going to process things. But this is part of what we do. This is part of my purpose, my life purpose to help all of you be the best you could be. Because I have to do that every day as well. It's part of our enlightenment and our evolvement, right? Doesn't matter what you do for a living. It's all about learning and moving forward and getting better and being a better person continuously. So all of that makes a difference. Now, feel free to share your experience. Kaylee felt love and sadness and a lot of different things. Now, I happen to know, I've had the experience and the chance to intuit a bit with Kaylee, so I know a few things that she's experienced in her life. So I can concur with all that she felt. And we're not going to get into anything personal. I won't be doing that. That's more for a private conversation. But I'm glad that this helped. This brought some new clearing, a new perspective. So I'm glad to have been the vehicle and the vessel for that. So this is something that we all, I'm going to say need to do, but we're all different. So not all of us decide to go that deep into ourselves. But I say give it a shot. Don't knock it. You know? Now, Ariel is saying it was enlightening for sure. Even doing something similar before, seeing them again was sad and happy and healing. Well, there you go. Yep. And Chrissy's saying, I was sorry to go back to be fat and old. I was such a chick when I was in my 20s. And I can just imagine how cheeky you were at a younger age, Chrissy. No doubt about that. You just got spicier as you got older, for sure, or as you became more seasoned. Because I try not to use older so much. And Ariel is saying, I definitely gave extra encouragement to my 10-year-old and 20-year-old self. Now, you guys are wondering why I picked 20 and 10 and 5 and a newborn. Well, this is what my guides had told me. Now, with a lot of you, it could have been 8, not 10, that something happened. It could have been 16, not 20, that something happened. But we try to get within the ballpark of everyone within the spectrum of what they needed, of what you guys needed. Now, Kaylee's saying, it gave me a new sense of confidence in the now. Going to continue with that feeling. Awesome. Now, this is important. And thank you for sharing that, Kaylee. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you. That feeling that you had of being at peace, feeling complete for that moment, feeling that you gave the proper messages to your younger selves. Now what? Right? Now what? Take that feeling and remember that feeling. Put that into your long-term memory. Because when, and I'm going to be blunt with you guys, when the crap's hitting the fan, remember this moment. Remember this exact moment where you felt grounded and at ease, even if it was for a minute, even if it was for 5 minutes, whichever it was. Feel that, connect with that, because that is going to be a coping tool, a mechanism, a way for you to go back, no different than reading that book that you read, that you loved that book and you read it over and over again, right? Remember that feeling, because then you're going to alter, you're going to break that pattern. So instead of feeling like total crap, you're going to break that pattern and you're going to go back to that grounded feeling, and then you could continue moving forward. You'll get yourself back in the now, and you'll diffuse a potential hurtful situation or a negative situation. Now, Chrissy's saying, okay, back to being honest, I started rocking my newborn, and I was being very sad for my 5-year-old. I started crying, and I still cry a bit. Now, honestly, being empathic and everything being more my heart than my head, when I had done this work myself, and I've done it more than a few times, it was emotional. It was pretty hardcore stuff. This isn't for the weak and weary. So the fact that you guys even went there and did that, I give you a lot of props, and I send you a lot of care and loving juju to say you made it this far. That's really good that you did that. And I'm glad I touched you in some way, Chrissy, to help, because a lot of times you may see someone that they seem like they're so put together, but when they're alone, things are different. And we all have that moment. You know, the kids are in bed. There's nothing else to have to do. You know, mind starts to go into a calming state. And then what happens? You know, sadness can come in, reflection can come in, happiness can come in. A sense of doing everything you need to do may come in. Who knows? But the thing is, today you did something good for you. You took good care of you. A few yous, actually. Many yous. Multifaceted yous. Multidimensional yous. Right? So that's a good thing. Nayan is saying it was a great feeling. Just tried not to fall into sleep. Yeah. Well, yep, the struggle is real. Welcome, Joe. And it's true. So when you're taking care of old hurts, old wounds, and you're healing your older self, it can change drastically. It could bring aha moments. And also, too, with anything. Now, Kaylee's saying, thank you, Chris. I hear you, Kristen. I did the same thing. We have to save ourselves, you know, but we have survived. And the fact that we are here with Moon shows that we are now awakened than most. It is a great thing. Oh, more. Yeah. No, there's more to it. I didn't catch all of it. That's the only thing about Facebook Live. It's sometimes you can only write so much. But this is part of it. So now that you've gone back and taken care of the old versions of you, you kind of gave them a little bit of knowledge and wisdom. So now guess what? They remember that, and you're being propelled into the present. So all that love that you gave that multidimensional you're going to bring that from this moment forward. So I suggest for you to do this type of exercise quite often. Every now and then, when you're feeling time to reflect or feeling time that you have to go into some form of introspection, to do that. Yes, and I heard about that, the rock salt lamps. That is so cool. And selenite, sel- selenite, selenite. There we go. I apologize. Sometimes, just energy is going through me, and I just lose the power of speech. But and thank you very much for the love and hearts, Pamela. I appreciate it. But this is all a big part of it. It's in nurturing yourself. Then you move forward with a whole different perspective. So it doesn't matter. Hey, Sandy. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world today. It doesn't matter who's in power. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where in the globe you're living. And this is one of the big reasons why my guides and my spirit council told me to bring this topic in today. You have the power, the strength, and the willingness to make things change, to make things happen. No one can take that away from you. So this is the important thing. No one can make you hate. They can teach you to hate. No one can destroy you unless you allow it. No one can affect you unless you let them. So this is a personal message to anybody out there that wants to cause harm. It will not work because we're stronger than that and we see right through it. And this is the important part. We all are in the same tribe. Color means nothing. Gender means nothing. We're all part of the same tribe. We hurt, we breathe, we bleed. Just a little side note. So don't allow anyone to harsh yours in. Don't allow anyone to alter who you truly are. So I hope that all of you enjoyed today. I want to thank you guys for being here and spending time with me here on my show, Set with Moonshadow. And all of you have inspired me to continue doing this, whether it's changing platforms, doing things differently, finding workarounds, working with, low budget tech, all of it. I appreciate all of you for being here weekly and supporting me and being there. And for all the new people that have subscribed and followed me and friended me on my social media, I want to say thank you. And I send a lot of love and juju to your way, and thank you for connecting with me. If any of you feel guided to connect and or support, please feel free to follow me or subscribe to my YouTube channel, my social media. It's all on my webpage. You can find it on moonphoenixrising.com or phoenixrisinghealingarts.com. Also, too, if there's anything that I could do to help, this is what I do for a living. This is what I do. So reach out, make an appointment, reach out to me, send me a message. We can set something up and I can work with you so you can be a better you. So I appreciate all of you for being here. And I love you all. Lots of love and light. And sending good juju to you always. And as I say every week, be strong, be amazing, be you. See you next week. Thank you so much for being here.